Good afternoon and welcome to the May 6 EDC regular scheduled board meeting. May we have a roll call, please?
Beverly Raymond. Here. Kayla Jacobs. Jerry LeBeouf. Here. Morris Albright. Here. Ingrid Holmes.
Here.
Daryl Anderson. Melvin Getwood. Present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. If you would, please stand and join us as Director Raymond leads us in prayer. Amen. Pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You've received a copy of the April 22nd, 2024 regularly scheduled board meeting minutes. May I have a motion, please? It's been moved and second to approve the minutes of the last board meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. There being no presentations, communications, are there any speakers? We'll move to the CEO's report and discussion. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Couple of items tonight. You'll receive my written report electronically in the next coming days. I am just back from training, and with the quick turnaround from the last meeting, just did not have enough time to put something together and proof it and make sure that there wasn't a million typos. So I'll get that to you in the next day or two. What I do want to accomplish tonight under staffing update is first and foremost to introduce you all to our new Business Attraction, Retention, and Expansion Manager, Mrs. Michelle Palmer, who comes to us from the Gladewater Economic Development Corporation, Gladewater, up in the northeast portion of Texas, where she served as the executive director of that corporation. I will give you a fuller background as a part of my overall write-up that I'll send to you in the next day or two. But as of this past Thursday, Ms. Palmer is also the proud graduate of the Oklahoma University Economic Development Initiative, which was a several-year journey. So she is to be congratulated for sticking with that and receiving that high honor. So I ask you to welcome her, as this is her first day, and tomorrow will be her first full day.
Thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Would you like to make any comments? You're welcome to go to the mic, if you'd like. It's
that
not
one's
working.
not live.
Okay.
So she's
right.
going to go here.
I just want to say thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. It's a wonderful opportunity. And I want to say a special thanks to Mr. Stokes, because he is the one who really put out there how much it was, what an opportunity it is to work here and work in PA EDC. So I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you. We'll move to unfinished business.
Well, actually, I have one more item.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I want to go from our newest employee to our longest tenured employee. A couple of weeks ago, Deputy Miller attended training to become certified as an business incubation manager. A mouthful there. She has just a few more steps before she achieves her full certification. In the last few days, I've had a chance to talk with both folks from IEDC and TEDC just to get some statistics. It's come to my attention that roughly 6% of all of the economic development organizations in our country have one certified incubation manager on staff. Worldwide, less than 1% have more than one, or at least, more than one incubation manager certified on staff. In Texas, according to the TEDC, my counterpart Carlton Schwab, roughly 6% of all the EDCs in Texas, of which there's roughly 700 of them, have one certified manager. 0.08% have two. When Deputy Mueller soon completes her certification, the Port Arthur EDC will join the ranks of that 0.08% by having two certified incubation managers on staff. So I congratulate her for the journey that she's on, that she'll soon complete, and that will bode well for this corporation.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I have one question regarding staffing. Where are we on hiring someone for the workforce department manager?
With the business attraction, retention, expansion now complete, Deputy Miller and I will be turning our full attentions to the workforce and community development position. As a matter of fact, our administrative assistant, our temporary, has started to call people to schedule them in for interviews.
Mr. LeBeau?
Yes. Mr. Stokes, we talked 2 weeks ago, not last month, about these 25 employees or 25 students that went through the training center, and you was going to get back and on that. Did you find out anything?
Yes, Dr. Stafford, who is my counterpart that heads up the program for Lamar State College, Port Arthur, was really bogged down, and his team did not get a chance to assemble the metrics that I wanted to present to you all on that. So I would just ask for a few more days now that I'm back. Let me sit down with him, get that information, and maybe just distribute it to you electronically as opposed to having you wait another month for that update. But haven't forgotten about it.
And one more thing, I noticed through the files here, looks like in the last 18 months, there was a lot of traveling expense for you. And these trips taken, how much training credits have you obtained towards your economic development certification?
I am just the program that I just mentioned that Mrs. Palmer just graduated from. I will graduate from that same program in October, and that is one of the things that my current contract requires me to do. So looking forward to that, and that's my focus right now, to make sure I successfully complete that activity.
Any other questions?
I had requested information regarding the youth program this summer. Where are we on that? I didn't receive any information, so where are we regarding the youth workforce program?
It takes a while when you turn yours off before mine turns on, so I'm sorry for the delay. We got two programs that are near and dear to everyone's heart, the scholarship program and the summer employment enrichment program. Just received an update, and I may have Deputy Mueller speak to this. I know that we received 5 candidates for the scholarships, and then the board had approved, prior to your coming back on, underwriting 5. So we've got 5 viable candidates, have not had a chance to sit down. Their information just came in, so I just want to make sure that they truly are viable and so forth and so on. As far as the summer program in terms of employment, tomorrow we'll send out the letters to the employers. I needed to just double check those while they were being written while I was away. Want to proof them tonight, make sure they're tight, and they will be issued tomorrow. So we have a deadline kind of internal of the 17th to make sure that everything is out and everybody knows where they're going to be working this summer, that their employers have brought everybody in, start doing the initial interviews and the onboarding, and the same thing for the scholarship program. We're just going to try and make sure both of those come to fruition in mid-May. Push your button.
So the letters have went out to all the schools?
Yes, Yes, that they have. I need to follow up on that, and like I say, the letters to the employers will go out tomorrow. I just need to have a chance to check it, make sure that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. And that would have been in the write-up, Director Raymond, but you don't have that. So thank you for asking. I really appreciate that.
Yes, under the financial report, I notice that you're splitting out. I'm assuming you've added line items recently between rent, EDC, rent press building, rent gas, EDC, gas press building.
Yes, per request from the city, before that came, before the press building went live, everything was held under one bucket, or when we went live roughly a year ago, it was just more accurate to break that out, so that it could be a little bit clearer as to tracking the expenses for one versus tracking the expenses for the other.
All right, but my question's this, I mean, you started your new year in October, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Was it last year that they asked you to do this, or before?
Beginning this fiscal year, so it was last year, calendar year, to commence this fiscal year, which started in October.
So did they come to you 3 months later and ask you this, or?
No, the request was made when we went to the budget cycle, which started last May. And as we developed the budget, which was approved by the board in August, we commenced tracking against it in October.
All right, well, on 5/3/24 is whenever these line items were added and money was moved.
I'm not really,
Well, let's flip to the back of the page.
One moment, let me ask a question, please. Before. Were you planning to discuss the budget at another point in the?
no,
No,
because
okay.
typically what happens, Madam Vice President, is when we switch back to the monthly report, which was last month, I'm still trying to get back into the switch back from the quarterly report to the monthly report. So in this particular case, distribute it, allow you all to have time to digest it, and then if there are any questions, field those back to me. Happy to try and address any questions tonight, but it'll be a little haphazard, because I have not studied the report in detail myself. It was just produced Friday.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We understand that. Mr. Albright, go ahead. Your questions?
Okay, well, if nobody's ready to discuss it, I guess I'll wait and discuss it at further time.
No, you may discuss it now. He
Okay,
just
well,
said he
on page
didn't.
5 of 6 is where these transfers start happening. And if you'll look at from G62 through page 6 of 6, G77, all these entries are from 5/3/24. And in your prior, you didn't have them split. And which brings up the million-dollar question. And you've got entries in here from 5/3, so I'm assuming this is up to date, and it's not really March. It's really the end of April, even though she added on 5/3, which is cool. But, you know, for the board's help, it would really be nice if our finance person was here at these board meetings. Because we've got money shifting around left and right, and I still can't figure out, to save my heart, where the 300,000+ came from to pay for the lift station. Because in this, it's only 151 that got moved that ever references it. And we've already transferred on something we haven't even agreed on yet for a deal that's on the agenda tonight. That's all I've got.
If you want to respond to those, any of that, Mr. Stokes, or, I mean, I understand we've not digested and you have not looked at it. Would it be better to have
To the extent that
Rachel
I
here.
understand the several questions, as it relates to the lift station, money was budgeted for that. It ended up being more than what was originally budgeted. So I moved funds from development over to make up that gap. So as far as the 300,000 that you're referencing, half of that had happened to have been budgeted back for this beginning of this fiscal year. Well, that was going to be a gap. We knew that coming out of doing the study that we needed to do, and that's where the gap was made up. As far as the splitting of funds, just for clarity, the first thing you referenced was the splitting of tracking of 2 buildings.
No, and that's every one of them that I'm talking about.
Okay, so but then you referenced G64, which is moving funds around, having nothing to do with a building, but having to do with the lift station, with the business park aspects and the study that we're getting ready to talk about tonight. Those would not fall under either of the building. Those are just operational things.
They're operational things, but if you want to stay to some numbers, all right? Let's go to water utilities, G71, G72. Electricity, G73, G74. Gas, G75, G76. Communication, G77, G78. 60, G60, and G61. Computer programs, G62, G63, other contractual services. That's where you're separating the buildings.
If I understand your question, what you're seeing, especially as it relates to moving funds, this was the first year that we had budgeted for both
Yes,
items.
and I understand that.
So-
The thing is, this is the first budget that we've seen. The prior handout that you gave us did not have this split. And that was 2 months ago, and it didn't have it split.
It could be that what we were going to months ago was a quarterly report, which doesn't have them split out. Why don't you just let me look into that and make sure that we get caught up one way or the other.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, unfinished business. Review, discuss possible action regarding entering into an agreement with the city of Port Arthur for the use of property located at Jade Avenue Business Park as a temporary debris management site in the event of a state or federal declared disaster. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second. Mr. Stokes?
Mr. President, I may be remembering wrong, but I believe that there was, Director Albright had requested some legal opinion on this, so I have to defer to our attorney on that.
I looked into this issue on the weekend, and as I understood it, I did some research into it over the weekend at Mr. Heck's request, and as I understood the question, you needed to know what would be an event that would cause the city to suffer a diminished value in the piece of property that we're talking about. And please excuse my voice, I've kind of got some sinus issues working, so it doesn't sound like it's normally. The only incident that would be causing a diminished value in that piece of property would be if something, a contaminant of some sort, were included in the Class 1 waste that was stored on the site, such that either the land or some groundwater under the land became contaminated with something that the various regulatory agencies have said should not be there. In that event, if the board were to try to sell that property, you would have to disclose as part of your required disclosures, any known contamination. In that event, if you know it's contaminated, then there will have to be a remediation before the property could be sold. And depending on the contractual arrangements, the board would pay for the remediation, or they would reduce the price of the property such that the remediation would be paid as a part of the closing. If you look at the proposed agreement, the board is, and the Economic Development Corporation is indemnified, and there's an agreement here that says, as a portion of the agreement, that should there be any kind of contamination or that sort of thing, the city will will either remediate the problem and or indemnify the Economic Development Corporation for the damage that would have caused. So this agreement protects the Economic Development Corporation against that possibility that some substance, sometimes we find out years later that a substance was harmful, that some substance, lead, any number of chemicals that made it onto the property. The city, as the entity that is leasing the piece of property, would have to either remediate it or pay the remediation costs. Does that satisfy your question, or do you need to go into anything further?
All right, just one other crazy example, okay? And let's say, right now, it's just basically farmland going into whatever you want it to
Yes, sir.
be. All right? And let's say 20 years from now, we decide that we just want to go ahead and do housing out there, okay? All right, single family homes. Okay. If we get into something bad, okay, and this is just all hypothetical.
Yes, sir, I understand.
All right, and you can only remediate to a certain point. After that, you just have to accept it, cap it, and move on. All right?
Yes, sir.
Which is fine if I want to do industrial or heavy commercial.
Yes, sir.
If I want to do residential, I've just lost that option.
Yes, sir. If the site could not be fully remediated, it would limit the use of that land. That would be covered under site repairs and remediation, because the city.
Right, but the thing is you cannot, if the city can't remediate it,
Yes,
then
sir.
it's got to be capped.
Yes,
This
sir.
is a crazy scenario. Then, how do we recoup, if it's under a managed situation, how do we recoup those acres, the value of it?
You would recoup the value of those acres because the city would have damaged the property. Essentially, they would have committed a tort against the property. As the tortfeasor, the city would have the obligation to make the owner of the property whole. So if the property could not be used for single-family residential purposes because there is a certain ongoing contamination that cannot be removed, then there would be experts that would value the difference in the piece of property now as the value of the property if it were in an undamaged condition. So the city would be responsible for paying the difference between the two.
All right, now, would it be on the value today or the debt value down the line?
Values like that are typically determined as fair market value at the time that the issue arises. So if you are going to make a subdivision of single-family homes, and you have to do an environmental impact statement, environmental impact study, that sort of thing, which determines that there is an ongoing contamination that cannot be fully remediated, the difference would be at that time, on that date, between the value of the property that is undamaged and the value of the property that is damaged.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 2. Review, discuss that all CEO travel outside the Golden Triangle shall be approved by the board prior to CEO travel, and all CEO travel invoices be approved by the board prior to reimbursement. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
It's been moved and second. This item was requested by Director LeBeau.
2 weeks ago, we discussed the same thing, and I thought we was all on board what was going to happen and how we was going to move forward with this, but evidently the director didn't understand and took off a week, the next week, and so I just would like him to talk about that.
Let me clarify. If looking at the statement verbatim, it doesn't have anything to do with when I'm traveling on my own nickel and on my own time, which is what last week was.
That's good, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think she had
Well,
she had a
no, I had a question. So when you travel on your own, I think what we may want to consider is that when you're on vacation or out of the office, that all of us receive a note that you are not in the office. Because I think that may be where this question comes around and we're not getting to where we want to get to. It's just a matter of, and I don't think it's about the cost as much as just kind of knowing, all board members knowing that.
And according to, I mean, interrupt, you're supposed to notify the board members 5 days prior to going on vacation, according to the contract. So we should have been notified before you left to go on vacation. And who did you appoint to take your place while you was gone? Those two things supposed to happen before you go on vacation.
Contractually, no, let me answer the second one. Contractually, Deputy Mueller represents the organization in my absence. As far as the first one, President Anderson, obviously, we now will just send it out globally. I always notify you in turn. If when you think about it, notify the board. I'll just notify the whole board. That'll take care of that.
For clarity, he does.
So, for clarity, you notified the board president.
Yes, sir.
correct, that you would be away.
Yes, sir.
And the board.
And Deputy Mueller would be representing me in my absence. But I'll have no problem just copying everyone.
Thank you.
And he
Just
does.
so long as it's understood that I did not do something wrong. I just want to expand the communication, not a problem. Sorry, President.
And he does notify when he's doing anywhere. He does let me know. And y'all can fault me if y'all didn't know because I did not send it out. And I try not to send a lot of stuff out. That's on me. But what we'll do going forward, that would be perfect, just to send out a blanket email. We just want to make sure that we're not responding to those communications that go out. We just receive them as information, okay? And then we should be fine. You good? Okay. So there was no action on that particular item, so we'll move on to our non-consent agenda items. The first one is to review, discuss the possible action regarding the acceptance of a quote and engage in the services of Team Solutions and Control Repairs to the HVAC system located at 501 Proctor Street. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Mr. Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President. Deputy Mueller will go over this with you in detail.
Board members, I apologize for the feedback if there is any. So before you have a quote from Team Solutions. They are our servicer for our control system for the HVAC here at 501 Proctor. With the recent events that we had where there was quite a bit of lightning and storms, It did cause the electricity to go out in this building, which surged some things here. We've had this happen in the past, and as a matter of fact, this time it took out 9 of the HVAC controllers. So we do have to replace those, and before you is the quote to get that done for the 9 controllers as well as the 16 hours for their labor. And just so you are aware, we are finishing up the installation of the generator right outside of this building. So hopefully with that generator, it will reduce the amounts of surges that we have to this building when we have storms and power outages. We are waiting for the plumber to install the gas connection to it. So once that's done, that generator will be up and running.
Can we have any questions?
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 2, review, discuss, and possible action regarding a proposal provided to the City of Port Arthur by Arsenal Wilson & Co. LLC for Port Acres wastewater treatment plant engineering study. May I have a motion, please? It's been moved and second. Ready for a discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Directors, before you is a proposal from our engineering firm of choice, AWC. This regards the long-awaited and overdue master study of the upgrading the infrastructure for the entire Spur 93 Park, to look at what infrastructure needs to go into the current Jade Avenue Park, as well as surrounding area. So this is a particular opportunity where we will be sharing the overall costs with the City of Port Arthur, because we obviously are servicing the lion's share of the clients that will come under this. And I should insert that we have bumped up against TCEQ's requirement for this study. Director Albright pointed that out, as a matter of fact, 2 meetings ago. And so the lift station, although clearly important in the grand scheme of things, is a Band-Aid that buys some time, but TCEQ is not going to turn their back forever. And so this is a mandated study that we have to do. As I mentioned, we're going to be sharing some of the costs with the City of Port Arthur. The total project just comes in to just slightly less than $150,000. The city will take care of the electrical assessments that are involved, and that's highlighted on the 3rd page of your document, whereas we will carry the rest, which comes in at $99,732,000. It is my recommendation to the board that we move forward with this study with all deliberate speed, lest we start incurring fines.
Mr. Stokes, the EDC burst off isn't going to incur fine 1. It's not our sewage treatment plant.
When I say we, I meant the community as a whole, but yes,
It's 2
you're
different
absolutely
entities,
correct.
and this wastewater treatment plant serves all of Port Acres. Not part, all. And I believe it even goes down 365, if I'm correct. You know, we paid for the lift station, and now we're being asked, or you're asking us, to fund 75% of this, and I don't want to fund $1 of it. And I don't want to fund $1 of it because it doesn't come under the EDC. This is a study that is mandated to from the CEQ to the City of Port Arthur, because they are the wastewater permit holder. We are not. Now, off of that wastewater permit, they collect fees monthly from every customer. Those fees are to repair it, maintain it, upgrade it, and everything else that might be needed. Now, while they have to do this study, unless that business park or 15 apartments come in along 365, which still isn't our problem, on 365, It's just a study that sits there, this TECQ requirement. We haven't done anything to trigger this. So, you know, my opinion is we just remove it, get more clarity of why we're being asked to do this from the city, and have the city come here and talk to this board and lay it out for us. But that's my recommendation. And I make a move to remove. Let's just see what happens. No, I want it removed. I don't want it tabled.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you want it removed, then I think the vote would be, you would defeat the motion there's been a motion and a second to approve it. So if you defeat that, then if you want it totally removed from any future agenda or whatever, you would then do it. That's when the motion to remove would come in, but you would have to do a vote first on the first motion.
Mr. Stokes, do you have any additional information concerning conversations or anything that has taken place leading to this item making it to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. There have been meetings with myself and Deputy Miller with the appropriate city staff, but although I may disagree in terms of funding, I agree with Director Albright. Let us all get into the room at one time and, to quote him, lay it out, and just go from there.
I'm fine with it coming back up, just with a new plan or whatever. You know, you can bring it back and reword it further, Mr. Attorney, if you ever want to put this back on. Even if you defeat it tonight, you can always absolutely bring it back up at a future date. But if you table it, Mr. President, this is going to be sitting on your agenda every day.
I still believe that that's the proper way to accomplish what you want, would be to defeat the motion that is presently on the presently before.
Information and the plan. You know, I'm going to vote against it tonight. I don't know how everybody else is going to vote against it. But the next month or whatever else, if the city wants to come before us and talk to us and everything else, then I'm ready to listen. But as far as just, you know, them coming up and going, hey, why don't y'all just be cool and pay for 75% of this, I'm not okay with that. But that's just me.
We have any other concerns or questions about that? All right, very valid point. So we're going to go ahead and vote. All in favor? Oppose? All right, motion fails. Agenda item number 3, review, discuss, and possible action regarding the CEO's high-level strategic plan. Requested by Director Albright.
Yes. Before I got on in the first meeting I was on,
There's no motion pending, so there would be no discussion.
Oh, we're on the next one. We're on agenda item number 3.
I'm sorry, but you still, well,
We have to get it on the floor.
you have to have a motion.
I didn't do that? I skipped it? Oh, I'm moving too fast. My bad. I'm just, I know I read it. Okay. I know I read it. What happened? Okay.
For there to be
All right.
discussion, there must first be a motion.
Got you. I'm moving too fast. I know I read. I'm like, what are we doing? Give me a motion. We have a motion from Ms. Holmes, and we have a second from Ms. Raymond. Now, Director Albright.
yes, I'd like to move to kill this. I read what it was. I think it's under the original intention, except for maybe one thing of the EDC. And I think it's just something we need to move on from and just conduct the business of the EDC. Thank you.
Yeah, what you?
The high-level streets plan, and I did bring it in with me, it's in my truck, it's 7 to 11. the high-level strategic plan, I did bring it in with me, it has like 7 or 8 different bullet points. All the bullet points, except for general housing and the city of Port Arthur, are all under what our mission, stated mission already is. And so it was coming up, and it was up and got removed whenever I first came on. But I think we should all just agree that we just need to do business with EDC, and there's no reason to sit there with something that's been lingering out for a year and a half or better to keep coming up. Because it's a goal. It's never been accomplished, so just make the goal go away. Because it's something that got started, but except for one item, unless I'm wrong, is everything that's in your bylaws of what the mission and what the job of the EDC is. So unless you just want to sit there on each item under your bylaws as far as what the mission is, and by committee or by board or committee reporting to the board of what we want to do, extra moving this thing forward, that falls to us.
I think the idea of creating this strategic plan came as part of, and correct me, Mr. Stokes, it came as part of something you wanted to create? How did we get here?
It's one of those things where if I had known then what I know now, I would have never opened my mouth and suggested that I do this. Nonetheless, it's still valid. In March of 2023, the then construed Board of Directors approved 10 strategic priorities to set as the footprint of the corporation for the next 10 years. Each of those then desires or demands a plan to accomplish them, that they may match some things that are already codified in a set of bylaws. The bylaws are not a plan of how you're going to accomplish said thing. So even if you all elect to remove the formality of the strategic plan, doesn't change the fact that my job is to plan out the execution and achievement of the corporation's goals and aspirations.
Is there any idea when we would have or be able to look at a draft of what you're creating?
As soon as humanly possible, ma'am. It isn't that I've forgotten this, isn't that I'm not working on it, but I cannot and will not put in front of it workforce programs, youth programs, hiring, taking care of the existing staff that I have now. I will not forego those things, which are part of my job as well, just for a plan that is going to come in time, and I need it to be of high quality. So as soon as humanly possible.
Well, I think Mr. Albright makes a good point.
Yeah. Well, I was on the board when March of 23, I guess it was, that they requested for your high level strategic plan to be brought up, and you told them that we was going to get a draft in April, and this month, a year ago, that we would get the final.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't seen it. And what I understood you to say way before that was this is why the business park is shut down, the press building shut down, and other stuff is not being done because of your high-level strategic plan. So if that goes away, then we just open up for business again.
I don't know what you're alluding to about business park closed. Business park isn't closed. I have 3 meetings tomorrow with clients that are looking to set up at the business parks. I don't know what you mean. Maybe I'm taking closed to mean a little bit more than what perhaps you have in mind. But if I'm meeting with people that are getting ready to write a check to buy land, I'm not sure how that equals closure. As far as the press building, I don't want to jump ahead. It's an action, it's an item that Director Raymond has put on the agenda, so I'll just cover that when we get to that point.
Close means individuals has came to the business park to purchase property, and you turned them away. Now, I can have them come speak, or they can write a letter to the board.
You can do either one, sir, but approaching someone doesn't mean that what you're approaching them for is acceptable or responsible for being at the park. Recently had someone wanted to buy land to put a bus depot out there. Under your definition, as you just articulated, that should be fully considered, brought to the board, and considered. Just why would you ever do that? Put an 800 bus depot at the business park. But by that definition, oh, you turned them away. No, I didn't turn them away. It's my job to represent the corporation, make effective decisions based on logical processes. The folks that I'm meeting with tomorrow aren't necessarily going to get turned away. They're legitimate opportunities, legitimate things that fit in with the covenants that we have established at that park and make perfectly good sense for the existing tenants that we have at that park. Just because someone comes with something, that's a good idea for them. Very seldom does anyone come up and they think they have a bad idea, but that doesn't mean that their idea is going to necessarily not harm the rest of our tenants at the existing park or violate our covenants. And that's what I have to take into consideration. If that means closed, then, okay, then guilty.
So let's circle back
I
to...
agree with what you're saying, but in 18 months, we haven't done anything at the park. No new prospects, nothing brought to the board. So you can't, well, we'll just see on these 3 prospects, how long it's going to take on that. Okay?
Having prospects, sir, does not mean that they have legitimate concerns. That's why I'm sitting down and meeting with them extensively. If your rule of thumb is X per every 18 months, then just codify that, and that's what we will go with.
Okay, gentlemen, let's circle back to what we were talking about, this agenda item as it relates to the strategic plan. If you do not mind, I think Dr. Getwood has something he wanted to add, and then I wanted to add something, and we'll see where we go from here, okay?
Yes, I think every organization, especially in this day and time, has a strategic plan. And I think that we need to continue to move forward with a strategic plan. It helps to develop the goals and objectives of the organization. And I think that Mr. Stokes may have gone and gained input from other stakeholders when it came to developing the strategic plan. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Stokes.
You're absolutely correct, Treasurer Getwood.
The strategic plan does not need some work, but I do think that the EDC needs a strategic plan.
All right. Mr. Stokes, and anybody that's been on this board before, the EDC has a 5-year and 10-year strategic plan in place. It gets updated ever so often, as required by the bylaws, I believe. So nobody gets confused. There is a strategic plan in place.
And we're not confused. We just want to make sure that on the table, it's understood that you have to have a strategic plan, regardless if you update it every 5 years, every 10, every 15. Every successful organization has a strategic plan.
Okay, so I think...
You know, it's been told to the CEO I know 2 times for sure that the EDC paid $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 for a strategic plan, and by the city manager. So why not implement this plan that you paid for?
Sir, that I think that you're thinking of the city of Port Arthur's master plan, which I think came close to $900,000. Some folks that were here before me can speak to that. This is a strategic plan for the corporation. The city of Port Arthur's master plan, which was done by Freeze and Nichols to the tune of, I think, $900,000, speaks to the totality of the city. We're not necessarily focused on sidewalks or roads or sewer or so forth and so on. We are a component, and certainly as an important component, we're tying into that overall master plan. That hasn't changed at all.
I believe what has happened is we,
Mr. Attorney? Yes, sir. The way this is written, I don't know if I'm voting yes or no to this.
We're looking at item number 3, so I just want to make sure that I'm focused on the right thing, which is review, discussion, and possible action regarding the CEO's high-level strategic plan. The motion that was made, quite frankly, I don't remember the wording of it.
it was read exactly.
Okay. There is no, so if there was no motion to take an action, then there is no motion pending, because a motion is for you to take some sort of action, and then the vote would determine whether or not that action was taken. To say that there's a motion that we review, discuss, there's no need for a motion to review, discuss, and take possible action. The motion that would be required would be, just for example, it's moved that we remove the CEO's high-level strategic plan from consideration or from being an issue that the board is going to discuss, something like that. And again, I'm not saying that's what should happen. I'm just saying that is an example of a motion.
I think for what we may need to do is add, because I think we do need a strategic plan, but we need to add a timeline, because it could go on forever with us saying if Mr. Stokes wants to do a strategic plan, and I agree with that, but I think we just need to maybe start to create a timeline, not your timeline, Mr. Stokes. I understand you have a lot that you're working on, but maybe in 3 months we see this component, in another 3 months we see another component, so that we can get the item moving, so that, as you said, it won't just appear and then we come back here again. So my motion is to ask Mr. Stokes to create a timeline for his strategic plan and present to us the timeline at the next meeting.
Okay, and just to be, I'm sorry, Treasurer, I just want to make sure I'm clear. You're comfortable with component by component. There's basically 10 chapters. So it'll be understood that if I release a draft of chapter 5, it's out of place, but that can be done. And I have no problem with that.
Before we proceed.
And then, I'm sorry, forget it already. And then once it's as a whole, with all due respect, Director Albright, before you shut it down, I'd rather you have it in your hand and then evaluate its value. I hear everything you're saying about the bylaws and all of that, but I would just humbly ask, let me get it to you, and then we just go from there. And if you shoot it down then, oh yeah, I'll be hurt, but at least it would have been a fair evaluation. Thank you, sir.
I've been trying, okay.
I think I can go with what Mrs. Holmes has said. And I believe that we should give the CEO an opportunity to look at the strategic plan, regardless to how long one has been on the board or one has been previously on the board. Time changes. And if we have not updated that strategic plan that was developed 5-10 years ago, we need to look at it and see if it aligns with what we're doing and where we're trying to go now. We can't live in the past.
I never had problems with his strategic plan, but when it came to the point where it affected operation, a lot of things like Mr. I can't remember his name right now. Mr. What's your name? LaBeouf was saying regarding not closed down, but some things was on hold because of the strategic plan. So I don't have no problem with the strategic plan as long as it don't affect the operation of the corporation.
And I concur with you, Director Raymond, and there has not been in any way, shape, or form any impediment. There's no connection between A and B. Again, Director LaBeouf eloquently articulated the park. It's not closed. Articulated the press building. I just didn't want to jump ahead because that's already on here. I think when we have that discussion, that'll be a little bit clearer, and hopefully it'll be clear that, oh, that has nothing to do with any strategic plan. That has something to do with other things. But again, not to jump ahead. But your point is well taken.
Well, the reason I said that is because it's been told, or I have heard, that the business park has been on hold, not closed, because you had plans for it under your strategic plan. So far, when people would come and want to buy land or property, it was on hold because you had plans for the business park. So again, I don't have no problem with strategic plans as long as it don't affect the operation of this corporation.
No, ma'am, it does not. Again, not to be redundant, someone wanting to purchase something and then do something that is either going to harm the rest of the tenants, be incompatible with what we're trying to do there, or just go against the covenants. Those things are explained to folks. What I have noticed in my brief time here is that that doesn't fully get explained out in the community. What gets translated is, oh, he shut me down. I don't have any reason to do that. The two things aren't connected with one another. The strategic plan talks about the full build-out and development of the park. So why would I do anything that would be counter to that just because I haven't written that paragraph?
Okay, so here we go again. We're slipping off into something else. Let's come back. Ms. Holmes, you would restate that motion that you gave. That's the motion we're going to go with, okay?
Okay. I move that we ask the executive director to provide for us a timeline for his strategic plan, and that timeline does not interfere with the operation of the organization.
The timeline next week. Next meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry, at the next meeting, thank you.
Okay.
At the next meeting.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the CEO gives us a proposed timeline at next month's meeting. And just so I can say it, I heard everybody else say it, we do actually have a strategic plan in place. I just want that to be clear. We do have one in place, okay? So all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay. Where am I? 4. Agenda item number 4, to review, discussion, and possible action regarding the CEO's discussion with the city manager concerning the city financial reimbursement to the EDC for the upgrade to the lift station in the business park, as requested by Director LaBeouf. May I have a motion, please? So moved. All right, it's been moved and second. Mr. LaBeouf.
Yes, this is a monthly ongoing thing. I was just wondering how your negotiating was going on getting our money back, or a portion of it for the lift station from city manager.
Thank you, Director LaBeouf. As I mentioned last month when this was an item, the city manager and myself will always, as strategic partners, have ongoing discussions about opportunities whereby we can share funding of things. Again, the AWC proposal, which Director Albright eloquently had an objection to, but nonetheless, it's documented that there was a proposal to share costs. We can always talk about the fact that, well, maybe this is skewed and we got to change the numbers, but that there was something brought that was going to share cannot be refuted. As it relates to the lift station specifically, I think I can say this in open session. We utilize the EDC's ability to be able to do expedited procurement in order to facilitate doing the lift station as quickly as possible. As Attorney Zek and his team have advised me and reminded me to come back and then seek funding from the city for said lift station, could be construed that we just simply skipped their process, substituted ours, which is much faster, and then just backdoored, got the funding from them. That is something that Attorney Zek is still looking into. So I don't in any way, shape, or form mean that this is the final thought, final process, but I'm just more comfortable as your representative before I then continue said conversation to allow him to fully explain where we stand on that. I understand the gist of what he's getting at, but I need to allow him to finalize that. And he may come back and say, no problem, you can do that. But having conversations on something that our attorneys may say, no, can't proceed with that, it's not a good use of either the city manager or myself's time. Having said that, that's one component, one thing. We're going to have lots of opportunities, just like the proposal that was brought to you tonight. This is not the beginning and end of strategic partnership between ourselves and the city manager representing the city.
So my question was, you in negotiating now with the city manager? You've been discussing with the city manager this?
No, sir. That conversation is tabled until such time as I get direction from our legal team.
All right, EDC attorney. Can you explain what the EDC emergency powers are that the city of Port Arthur does not have the same exact emergency powers?
No. I cannot tell, I have not briefed that issue, so I would just be speaking off memory from attending law school 33 years ago. And I would rather not do that because I could give you incorrect information.
Tell me, the city doesn't have emergency powers?
The city has certain emergency powers, but their emergency powers are often different from the emergency powers that the EDC has. The EDC and this laws do not always make sense. I think we can all agree on that. But you have to look at all of the laws in total. The legislature would not have created an emergency power for the EDC that would enable it in collusion with the city to do an in-run around the city's requirements, because that would be totally untransparent. So you have to look at all of the emergency powers construed together, and that is something that Mr. Hegg is working on.
Any other questions concerning this you have? All right.
Here, so moved, again, puts us in a situation where we had where there was a discussion, but there was no motion as to take an action. So I'm trying to devise a remedy in my mind very quickly here. You could move that there would be a motion that the executive director provide an oral update as to the status of the the negotiations between the EDC and the city on this issue. And then that's essentially what he did. He did not like
Yeah, provided the update, there are no negotiations until Attorney Zach returns with his finding. So that update will really come from him. And just to be clear, Attorney Zach met with myself and Deputy Miller extensively before giving us the go signal, if you will, to proceed with the expedited procurement, and made it very clear to us that our statutes trump the city's in terms of speed. And since speed was of the essence, that's why we decided to go with our procedures as he outlined them to us.
So have we given the city the money?
It was not giving them any money. We paid for the.
Well, that's what I mean, you've done that.
Yes, under our procurement procedures, yes.
So we've already done it.
Yes, the work has already been done to the
The
station.
payment has already been.
Yes. Just to clarify, otherwise, there would not be an improved lift station. We'd still be waiting, and we would still have customers at risk.
So there's no action coming out of this agenda item? It was just discussion?
I don't believe that since you, Executive Director, provided an update and a discussion, that you would necessarily have to act.
Okay.
So as long as you were satisfied that your questions were answered, to the extent that was possible for that to happen.
Okay, so, are you satisfied?
Yeah,
Hope
that's
so.
it, as long as he's working on it.
All right, so that went strictly for discussion. Now, we are, we're at number 5, but now it's appearing that the way we have our agenda items listed is causing some issue with me getting them on the floor like this. I'm gonna keep doing it like this. We're gonna work through this today. I'm gonna just keep saying it the same way I've been saying it, then we'll provide those motions at the correct time, okay? So review, discussion, and possible action on the board's prior action on the board policies and procedures, and to revisit the board policies and procedure and the board bylaws. May I have a motion, please?
Also move.
Second.
It's been moved and second. That was by Mr. LeBeau. The right answer.
I looked at the policy procedures and the, and it's lots of questions that I can't find in the bylaws. And I know we was gonna have, is that correct,
Workshop.
a workshop.
But you said that.
And that was fine, everything was fine, except Friday, our director tried to get these bylaws, new bylaws pushed through by the mayor for tomorrow night's meeting. And he was shut down with the attorney. So I recommend, or I make a motion, not just to happen again, that we go back to the old bylaws until our workshop is complete, where this will not happen again, because if it would have went through, we would be stuck with the new bylaws, which I don't think anybody on this board knows what's in the bylaws, policy, and procedures.
But we had workshops on the bylaws.
That's right.
3 of them. We had 3 workshops on the bylaws. So, as it relates to this, we did say in our last meeting that we would set up a workshop. At that point in time, we're talking about policies and procedures. And now, what we're looking at, we do have new people on board that were not here when we did all of the work for the policy and procedures and the bylaws. And I believe, and if I'm wrong, y'all tell me, I believe that we can take some time to go and at least bring everyone up to speed on what's happening. Can we do that?
Yes, sir, and I have Mr. Heck's availability to present
Okay.
the dates that he would be available to schedule.
Okay.
It is entirely appropriate to consider the dates that he has available, but it would be inappropriate at this point to determine what would be contained in the workshop or the seminar. As far as reverting to the old bylaws, you're still under those. If the city did not approve the amended bylaws, has not yet approved the amended bylaws, then the old bylaws are what is governing this board and its action. And I'm a little hesitant, but I feel that I need to make a statement characterizing the actions by the executive director as something nefarious or that he was trying to push something through. I believe it is unfair under the circumstances. And I do not want to insert myself into any kind of political discussion or employment discussion here on the board, but I think that is an unfair characterization because he does not have any control over the city of Port Arthur's agenda for its meetings.
And for clarity's sake, so that's understood as well. This board did vote on approving those bylaws. So they did come to us, we did approve those bylaws, that's why they were going to the city.
Yes, sir.
They have been approved by the board.
They would have to have been approved by this board in order to get to this.
Okay, but the city did not approve the bylaws. Go ahead.
Point of order, the last meeting we had was to stop everything and do a workshop on the bylaws and policies and procedures. No, that's fine. No, I know you had to leave, but that's my point of order.
And I would like to add to that, Mr. Anderson, you were here during the time that we discussed policy procedures. And before you left, you stated we would have a workshop before we proceed. So I want to make
On
sure.
policy and procedures.
On policy procedures
Yes, ma'am.
and the bylaw, but we talked about.
It was not bylaw when I was here. I remember.
Okay,
It was just policy and
but the thing
procedures.
is, that until we have a workshop to approve or go over the policy procedures, we need to keep the April 2022 bylaws in effect until we have the workshop. So in other words, nothing should be going to the city council for approval until we have the workshop to go over the policy procedures and the new bylaws. So we still stay with April 2022 bylaws until we have our workshop, and then we proceed to vote on the bylaws and then proceed to, city council.
Mr. Chairman, if I may address that for just a second. It would be very appropriate for this body to notify the city council that it does not wish to have the amendments that were proposed considered until there has been a chance for this board to undergo its own training or workshop. Because what you've done, and since by approving those amended bylaws and them being submitted to the city, is saying, city, these are ready for you to vote on. Just from listening to the discussion here tonight, I don't believe that is the case. I don't think that those amended bylaws are ready for the city to vote on. So it would be appropriate for the executive director to ask the city to not consider those amended bylaws until further notice.
Why couldn't you do that?
Well, or we can do that.
I'd rather you do it.
Okay, I'll make a note and I'll take care of that tomorrow when I get back in the office.
And I hated to get you in the middle of this, but what I stated is a true fact. Okay,
yes,
that's good.
Okay.
And one other thing I wanted Charlie to be here about is, because I went to a couple of the workshops, and what Charlie said is that all he was removing from the bylaws, he was going to put in the policy and procedures. Is that correct? Well, I'm finding there's been revisions from one to the other. It's been revisions. And that's why I'm so damned on this to stop it.
we need to be on the same page, number one. You know, so there's no issue with having the workshop, with revisiting those bylaws. I don't have an issue with it. I think we just need to set a date to do the workshop, and I believe the attorney has some availability there.
I have dates for some dates in June, May, June, and July. And I was just going to present the list to the executive director, or I can. It's very short. It's just May 27th, which is a Monday, May 29th, which is a Wednesday, June 1st, which is a Saturday, June 8th, which is a Saturday, June 15th, which is a Saturday, June 19th, which is a Wednesday, June 22nd, which is a Saturday. Read my chart right here. June 24th, which is a Monday, and then June 29th, which is a Saturday. I misspoke. There are no July dates on the list.
Could you email to us, to the board, and that way we can decide on?
I can email. Typically, what I would do is email it to the executive director, who would then distribute it to the board.
She's a busy woman.
Okay, so I'm not trying to put anybody in a spot. I'm just as busy as anybody else on this board. But I think we need to see if we can pick a date tonight for this meeting. You know, now I can tell you right now, I'm okay with the 27th, that Monday. I can't do Wednesdays. I can't do Saturdays. Huh? That's a holiday. That's the cooking day. Okay, well that Monday's gone.
Hold on.
The 22nd is a Saturday, Mr. Chairman.
Any Saturday with me is good. Any Saturday. Any Saturday.
Okay, so Mr. Bub is okay on Saturday. I can't do, what other days you can't do?
Some Saturdays I can't do that.
Oh,
Okay, what if we, okay, skip Saturday, we can't do that Monday. So with that leaves us with that Wednesday date, what date was that? That was a what?
Wednesday's church. Wednesday's church.
There's a Wednesday, which is,
Are we talking May?
Wednesday would be May 29th.
Okay,
That's a Wednesday. And then June 19th, well, Juneteenth, that's a federal holiday, so we can take that one out. Those are
you said
the
22nd and 24th?
The 22nd, 24th, and 29th. The 22nd is a Saturday. The 24th is a Monday. And then June? Yes, ma'am.
June, where's June, 22nd and 24th, those dates are.
And the 29th, which is again another Saturday.
You want to have June 24th?
We just need to have it.
Okay, June 24th.
As fast as we can get it, it's better, but we just need to have it.
Okay, that's Monday, right?
That's a Monday. You fine with that?
That's fine.
24th?
There need to be a motion.
That's what we're trying to get the case up. So the 24th will be the day we got the motion with all that stuff and state the date. What time we gonna do it?
Well, no,
Just
six.
six.
I thought it was 7. I thought it was.
There you go. All right. We can do it in the morning. If everybody. 10 works for everybody.
I'm fine with it.
Yes. Okay. This is
And move that we have the workshop to discuss the bylaws and policies and procedures on June the 24th at 10 in the morning. Thank you.
All right, moved and second, all in favor? Opposed? All right, so that's a daytime, for those that work in the daytime.
Well, I still think we could do their morning or afternoon golf. Unless you tell me you're still building up 36 holes.
That's right. Okay, we are now on agenda item number 6. All right, agenda item number 6. Review, discuss, and possible action regarding the requirement of the board's consideration for sponsorship requests utilizing using the EDC promotional funds and the EDC request for use of promotional funds form currently in place. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved and second. Director LeBeau.
Yeah, I put in the front of all y'all have one of these promotional fund sheets, and this was used in the past, and evidently dropped, and it's not being used anymore, and I just recommend that we would use this again, keep us out of trouble if it's any problems. That's about it. If you want to look at it, you want to look at this one.
Thank you. Mr. Stokes, you have anything on this? What do we have in place now? What are we using?
Wholeheartedly concur. And I will take the hit. Did not dig far enough to get this. I am going to be in conversations with Attorney Zach. This probably requires just a little bit of updating, but make no doubt about it, I concur with Director LeBeau. There needs to be a process in place. This is a good place to start. I do know that, without jumping ahead of Attorney Zach, just to make sure that we can indeed direct funds to the types of things that perhaps have been done in the past. We want to make sure that no legislative changes have been made to where perhaps what we used to be able to do 5, 10 years ago and provide community development funds may not be appropriate for 2024. And that's just something that we'll look at as a part of making sure that this is refreshed.
Go ahead.
I'd asked Jerry about this a while back, and the reason why I like this, like the Southeast Texas leadership thing, before we do something like that, and I believe we need to attend stuff like that, but I think it needs to be thrown out to the board of who's going to participate, because it might be a thing that it might just be something you and a deputy director go to and just buy 2 seats because none of your board members can attend, all right? And it looks a heck of a lot better having a full table than just 2 people sitting there.
Yes, sir, I concur. One of the things that, with you all's blessing, that I'd like to do as we go into the next budget cycle is just comprise a list of those things with your feedback into them. That's one of the things that I just have not had. That's on me. It's been a hodgepodge of, well, we've done that before. Well, okay, that doesn't mean that we want to do it now, but I need to come to you all, so I want a list. And also what has been suggested, and again, I'm not putting this, it's not on the agenda, I just want to just touch upon it. Having entities, especially community-oriented entities, have to submit a request at the beginning of the year that they will be seeking those funds. What amount, so that we can make sure we're budgeting them. You all as a body can talk about that. Right now, what happens is it tends to just, whenever the event comes up, a request comes in, and I just would rather not continue on that way. If in fact, Attorney Zach says that it's kosher for us to even be donating those funds in the first place.
No, it's already in place. Well, no, he's going to have it looked at.
It is in place and will be used, but I'm just saying, and whether or not you need a motion, I'll leave that to David. It's going to be refreshed in conjunction with the conversation with legal on what we can and cannot, per 2024 rules and regulations, donate to, if that's the right word. Underwrite, that's probably a better word.
No action needed, because that's part of what we do, is we update the materials for the board every year, or every 2 years, because Texas legislature meets every other year, thank God. And so after each legislative session, all of the forms and things, part of our service is to make sure that all of those are brought current. So there would not be a need to move that. You ask us to do that, because that's already our job.
I just don't want to belabor the point, but if we have people who have received funds in the past and it does meet the approval, would it be possible until we inform the public or that we are no longer able to, that we are not able to do it? If they have done it, if we have approved them in the past, would we be able to do that until we set a date? If you all say it's okay to
Yes.
do.
A past grant or a past underwriting event is not a entitlement to a future underwriting event or on this sort of thing. So it would be perfectly fine to use this form while the process is being updated. If there has been a change, and I do not really recall there being any kind of major action in the legislature on this type of thing this past session, so you may have to tell someone, but I don't believe that will be the case, that, hey, the legislature has changed it and we can no longer underwrite this event.
I would just add, it is, I'm sure one of the things that Attorney Zach will take into consideration in his review is whether or not we were out of sync in the first place. So that's also what has to be evaluated. It could be that we've been providing underwriting and we never should have, but can't turn the clock back.
All right. Anyone else have anything?
I just want one little point.
Go ahead.
You know, independent about what the attorney says, as far as budgeting, you know, we can look at everything we did last year, throw everything to the attorney that you did last year, because you've got a year here. Throw everything to them, you know, bring it to the board. If there's something the board wants to add, you know, we can get ahead of it and budget for it. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. Agenda item number 7. Review, discuss, and possible action regarding the use and rental of space in the press building. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
It's been moved and second. Director Raymond.
Yes, as you know, the press building been in place for over a year or so. And I basically want to know where are we in regards to lease, the incubator that Mr. Stokes had talked about, as well as the bistro, and the executive rooms, or conference room that we have in place. How are they being utilized?
Deputy Miller can probably speak more articulately than I on terms of the rate at which the various facilities are being utilized and rented. Let me speak to the larger picture. When this body approved, went after and was subsequently approved for EDA funding, as I interpret the grant documentation and have received some level of feedback from legal, it was clearly stated that the facility would be used as a business incubator. One of the fundamental aspects of a business incubator is that you're incubating babies. And in doing so, the lease payment that a company that is well established might pay is completely different if a payment exists at all. In the 3 incubators that I've run in my past, startup firms, we actually sought venture capital to underwrite the firm getting underway, including rent. Their job is to learn how to run and operate a business. That is why they have to go through finance programming. That is why they have to go to human resources programming, marketing program, so forth and so on, which is all provided by the incubator. I just want to make sure that there is a distinction made between incubation, which is focused on entrepreneurship and startup, as opposed to leasing office space to a well-established firm. That may be attractive as it relates to revenue. I'm not arguing that, but that goes in violation with what we told the federal government the facility would be used for. And until such time that we seek relief from that obligation, then I'm proceeding and I'm making sure that other people are trained in managing an incubator.
my question is, have we leased out any room for incubator or anyone? Because according to the EDA grant, I did kind of look over it, and it does state that it is for incubator, but you also can lease it out to businesses have already been established. So not the whole building, it's not just for incubation. So I understand it is like a baby, you're training them on how to be entrepreneurs and things of that sort. So where, again, the question is, where are we? It's been over a year now. Have we leased out any rooms for the incubators?
No, because that requires that an entire program of support is in place. That requires myself, along with the team, making sure that we have stakeholders in place, like Lamar State College, to provide the various programming that we're going to need. Those conversations are ongoing with the Small Business Development Center, with Lamar State College, Port Arthur. An incubator does not fire up overnight. Steps are being taken, just like I mentioned at the very beginning. Deputy Mueller is seeking her certification. These are steps that are being taken incrementally to make sure that the facility is ready to go with all of the necessary attainments that are needed in order for someone to be successful. Looking at it as a hospital incubator, if you will, it doesn't do really much good to have the preemie perhaps on a respirator, but all of the other facilities that they need in order to grow and sustain life and go home with their parents aren't in place. We're making sure that those things are in place so that when we do bring someone in, and I really would like to get away from the word lease, because that may not necessarily, lease connotates money exchange. That may not be the case. We are making sure that brand new entrepreneurs and brand new startups get underway and build their company successfully, so that as a part of the quid pro quo, they establish, if they're brick and mortar based, they establish their eventual entity downtown as our part in as a contribution to the overall downtown revitalization, which is a part of the city's master plan that we contribute to.
What about the bistro? What's going on regarding that? Have we received any interest in any businesses, restaurants?
And I'm assuming that you're not talking about the college's culinary program as a part of theirs. The bistro will be a part of the kitchen incubator. We're actually going to have a hybrid incubator, regular general, I'll call general businesses, as well as the kitchen incubator. We have had folks extremely interested in providing the programming, and we will eventually provide an RFP to hit the streets for those folks that can provide that service. But right now, we're also trying to make sure that we have the other necessary steps in place so that when we put a budding restaurateur in there, that they can fully succeed, fully grow over the course of the 4 years or less that they would be in the incubator.
How long now before that's in place? 6, 7 months before you have everything in place so we can start reaching out to these new entrepreneurs?
That aspect will be a part of that overall timeline and strategic plan which you all voted on earlier, so I'll speak to that as a part of that document.
Mr. Stokes, curiosity question. And a lot of this depends on, you know, the Motiva building and a couple other things. But hypothetically, why, as far as incubation, and I'm picking something just pie to sky, okay? Let's say walk-ons, okay? Walk-ons, not sure if they can make it down here or not, okay? So they come to you and go, hey, we need 6 months. Figure out if we can go brick and mortar down here. Wouldn't that be incubating? And then you would have somebody right behind.
No,
well,
sir.
But.
Well, sir, it would be if you're going to self-define it, but if you're asking me a question according to the principles of entrepreneurship, no. Walk-Ons is backed by a corporation. It is a franchised That's like saying, well, if someone wants to do Chick-fil-A downtown, are they in an incubator? The very nature of being an incubator is that you don't have a multi-billion-dollar corporation underwriting you. It's two different things.
Right, but I understand, but and where I'm going with this is, and hypothetically, Motiva moves downtown. They're here right now, okay? Nobody knows what's gonna work or not. You know, you're at breakfast and lunch, you got the apartments, that might give you some night, but, you know, my question is before somebody puts in the investment to do it, you know, I would really like to try something out first to see if it's gonna work. And if it doesn't follow the program or the EDA grant, that's.
I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna tell you the last owner walk over, went over there and looked through the building, he walked away from it. You can ask him, the other two, it's always me in time. And I support.
I'll bring up Sawgrass then. I mean, yeah.
It's a small business that is it's a family-owned business. And if they wanted to come there, maybe they could consider buying something downtown. But could they then come to the incubator and see if people like their food or no? That's not a definition of incubator, and that's the question.
Yes, ma'am. They aren't a baby. They're an established, already know how to do business. They're just expanding their scope. So what can be done under the guise of small business development, having nothing to do with running a business incubator, is that, yes, the EDC, for example, just as Director Albright likes to say, just pie in the sky. I'm not going to hold me to this. We can perhaps be the facilitator of the brick and mortar facility. We can seek grants that tear up the building, get rid of the asbestos, this, that, and the other, and put a facility back that eventually they have to buy, but we're removing some of that risk of them establishing. But that is different from business incubation. That is just business expansion, and we're all for that. We want that. It's just different from what would be going on in the rest of it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
One thing I'd like to pass on to you, or this board, and I'd like to pass on to the city too, and they're not here. They keep talking about bringing stuff, brick and mortar, to downtown Port Arthur. It's been over a year, and I've been trying to buy property in Port Arthur. There's no property in Port Arthur. And if something does come up, like the welding building across the street, it has went out of sight. A $20,000 building, now it's $250,000. So how would someone that's coming into an incubator get out and afford anything? They're not going to have any money. They can't go to the bank if they're not a franchise. Well, forget a franchise, unless they have money.
Yes, sir, and that would be an expansion, if you will, or a continuation of what I just said with a functioning existing small business. This body may decide, as a function of our contribution to the revitalization of downtown, that we would be the facilitators of that brick and mortar. We can do that by way of grants. As long as we're a type A, we can do that. May elect not to, but the option is still there. And we can set you can set a timeline if you are not viable by 5 years, whatever. Then it reverts back to us, and we would then have a pool or a pipeline of folks through the incubation program that perhaps can replace them. Think of it as, again, just because this is the example that we use in the business, just like a hospital baby incubator. You're trying to provide everything that you possibly can to get that child to go home with his parents. You're not guaranteeing that the child will grow up to be president of the United States. You're not guaranteeing that the child will grow up to be Beyonce. You're not guaranteeing any of that. You're simply guaranteeing that they will grow sufficiently to where they can exit. That is what we'll be focused on in the business incubation. I'm not opposed to looking down the line of, well, what happens when they have no money or this, that, and the other. I would also ask you to understand that not everybody that'll go through the incubator will necessarily be brick and mortar. Some of the companies that'll go through will be digital and will be internet-based, like most other companies that start today. So that's a mix that I will articulate in the strategic plan. But I guess what I'm asking, to the extent that you can be excited by the possibility, you are playing a role in doing something. And something is always better than doing nothing. We are trying, by way of the assets that we have available to us, to facilitate, to the extent that we can control, some aspect of revitalizing downtown. Can we always look at, oh, well, that's not going to work and that won't happen and this? Well, sure. You can also look at that baby and say, well, it won't grow up to be anything. It's not going to amount to anything. Why should we spend all these resources and incubate and nurses and doctors and medicines? It's not going to be anything. Well, we don't really know that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Did you get your question answered? Any other questions on that? All right, that was complete discussion. Agenda item number 8, review, discussion, possible action regarding setting 2 open house dates for the press building, one for the public and one for businesses. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
May I have a second? It's been moved and second. Ms. Raymond.
Okay, again, as you know, the press building, sorry, okay. The press building been open for over a year and we have not had a open house date for the public as well as for the businesses. Can we please set aside a date of when we can make this happen? We're way, way overdue. And you'd be surprised at so many people who does not know anything about the press building. They pass by, they look at it, but they don't really know what it's all about.
Director Raymond, are you comfortable if we have not fully launched the incubator when we've had that open house?
My thing is just to let them know that that's what we're working toward. They don't have to know the whole, lineup. Just let them know that's what we're working, what we're looking forward for it to be an incubator. And just to get the word out there.
Yes, ma'am.
And let them know what's going on.
I'm just pausing because, Director Raymond, you want it done right. Don't sell me short. Don't play no game. You want it done right. I spent enough time with you to know you want it sharp and you want it tight. Now, if you're gonna change your mind on that and change personality, go ahead and tell me.
Mr. Stokes, Mr. CEO Terry Stokes, we're way overdue. And I know you have been thinking about ways to have the open house. Exactly what do you want to include in it? What's missing? What make you need to have to wait?
We had, as the members of the board that were in place last summer, as you know, we were targeting September. One of the two of the lead entities that we wanted to be on hand were ill and not in place. It would be really just kind of tough to not have the architects there that sweated over the design, to not have the engineers there. Let me get with Deputy Miller. Let me ask you this, Director Raymond, and please don't, I know it's been way overdue, duly noted. How much longer is too long?
What you think is too long?
Apparently I don't have a sufficient answer for you because it hasn't happened and you're saying it's way too long.
It's already been too long.
Well, there you go.
It's way overdue. I would say at least in 3 months.
Let's shoot for the end of the fiscal year.
Now we're talking about
September.
We're talking about another motion now, right? No.
No, this is just a discussion, and he can propose working dates, or, for the open houses.
So nothing in stone. Good, okay,
Okay.
I like that. That's good.
And I'm just looking at the person in charge of the building just to make sure that she hasn't thrown her water bottle at me, so we're gonna shoot for that. Let's do this, let me make this commitment. As her and I sit down and start to put this together, let me provide you updates at your meetings as to how things are coming. I'm gonna need your help with list, because the list that we have was put together by a previous construction of this, and new folks are on, old folks are gone. So I'm gonna have to sit down with you on list, and I want it tight. We only get one shot. You only get one chance to make a good impression. And that's the only hesitancy. I want this to be pulled off right. So you want an open house? I guess I'm not understanding what you mean. Are you talking about the businesses, ma'am, that are already in there?
No,
Potential businesses.
potential business.
Okay,
The
keeping
businesses
it,
within the city of Port Arthur or abroad, and then for the public.
okay.
Also-
And I would just, I'm sorry, forgive me, would humbly ask yourself and the entire board, just keep in mind that we aren't trying to attract people to put office space in. But if we're targeting potential entrepreneurs, we can do that all day.
Hold on.
We'll work with the chamber in that conjunction.
Yeah, I've got a compromise for you. Do a ribbon cutting on it, that brings the chamber into businesses, and then later on, something for the city.
Okay, in conjunction with the launch? Okay. Does he need to take over?
I'm good.
Does the other-
Discussion, right?
I don't believe a vote is necessary. That's a discussion that you're aware of.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I don't think there's any further action needed on that particular agenda item.
Thank you. All right, future agenda items.
Yes, I got two. I'd like to, one of them, review, discuss, and possible action regarding CEO's contract. And the next one is revisit, discuss, and possible action regarding CEO's relocation expense. And that's it.
Anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right. It's been moved and second to get out of here. All in favor? All right, I'll see y'all on next month.